Hi peeps, welcome to the next installment in the Witchcraft and Tarot series. You guys just keep asking such great questions that this series just won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. So this video for today, I wanted to address a viewer question on the most recent installment in the series, the video on my thoughts on altars, working with the Sabbats and setting up authentic altars for oneself during those Sabbat seasons or when observing this, a more cyclical spiritual practice. And one of you had left a comment, and this felt like an important question to answer this week. So let's get into it. So the viewer said that they struggle with personal practice and setting up sacred space when they're going through an extreme high and extreme low during, difficult time periods. That it leaves them conflicted and drained mentally and emotionally to the point where they don't really do anything. And there's confusion for them about what direction should they focus on. So what the viewer asked me to speak to is, do I ever feel like this? And what are some things that you do at a time like this? Do you recommend anything that could help me find focus, balance, and stability so I can get back on track? I thought that this was a very honest and also very human set of questions, because I think all of us experience these feelings at a certain point in time on our path, whether we identify as pagans, as witches, people who are following left-hand path spirituality. And so it's something that I do think applies for all of us. And of course, as with all the videos in this series, I am speaking to just sharing my personal opinions and experiences. Please trust yourself, your intuition, and if you are currently going through a dark period and you're working with a therapist or someone like that, someone that you trust in that way, please trust their insight and guidance for you before you listen to mine, obviously. But that being said, when it comes to those really dark moments or those really heavy moments, I think maybe I want to use the word heavy as opposed to dark here, because when we are in that slump, it can feel really, really heavy to the point where, the effort required to craft some intense, crazy, authentic, over the top altar just feels like too much. So the first thing that I would say to you that I've found helpful over the years is to bring it back to basics. So for me, when I'm going through a heavy or a dark period and just getting out of bed feels overwhelming, let alone crafting time for spiritual practice, I will bring it back to two things. My Tarot of Vampires deck and a stone on my altar. So I have a white stone that I found at a beach in Biddeford many, many years ago that I feel really represents the soul of my practice with the goddess Isis. And that stone is what I will bring it back to when I need to strip things down to basics. So I will literally just clear my altar space. I will sage if I feel up to being able to do that. I do think that sacred smoke does make a difference. So if you are really feeling heavy, try working with sage or incense passed over the altar and also passed over your body, just to help you get clear about what's yours and what's someone else's. It's just an energetic clearing. It's going to help you be able to differentiate between if you're picking up on someone else's emotions in your life, or if you are just genuinely in a space where you need to honor the weight of your current emotions as well. And of course, it could also be a mixture thereof. But I find that sacred smoke really helps me to get clear on that piece for myself. So I will sage my altar space, and then I will just put that one stone on the altar and my Tarot of Vampires deck. And that's it. And if my practice for an entire month is just sitting in front of my altar, looking at my stone and my tarot deck, I will allow that to be what my practice is. It's very important not to force when you need to stop. Just like the Wheel of the Year and the evolution of the goddess as she moves through that year, there are times of rest. The Death card exists in tarot for a reason. And so there are times when you need to literally stop and do nothing on your spiritual path. This doesn't mean that you aren't dedicated. It doesn't mean that you don't love the deity or or essence of the divine or aspect of higher self that you're working with. It means that you're honoring where your soul is on its journey and also where your physical body may be on its journey. So the first thing I would say is, in the darkest or heaviest of those moments, do not force yourself. As I just said, for me, sometimes it's just tarot vampires and my white stone, and I just sit in front of my altar for as many days as I need to do that. And I might, I'm someone who brings my emotions to the altar. So I might sit in front of the altar and cry. I might sit in front of the altar and talk to my gods. I'll do whatever it feels appropriate from that perspective before I will worry about what's on my altar for a sacred tool at that point in time. I do like to hold that stone in really dark times or times of anxiety for myself. It's just something that feels comforting. So if you have a stone or a crystal or something in your, spiritual toolkit that really feels comforting for you, I would say put that on your altar and hold that while you sit in front of or near your altar during these times of darkness, heaviness, or confliction within oneself. When you feel ready to bring tarot into your practice, as I just stated, it would be Tarot of Vampires for me, but put your home tarot deck on the altar. Those moments when you need support and compassion and grace from guidance and from your spiritual tools, that's when you want to go back to the tried and true. It's not necessarily the time to try out a new deck or to push yourself with artwork or to push yourself with occult symbolism. Bring it back to the basics of what drew you to tarot as a positive aspect of your practice in the first place. So, as I said, for me, that's Tarot of Vampires. And I will work with that deck and I will draw just one card a day or one card a week during that time period. Of course, when I say this, I'm speaking about for myself. When I'm at work, which as you all know, my day job is readings, I'm drawing from other decks and drawing more than one card for clients. But if I'm in a time of darkness or a time that requires stillness from my personal experience, I will just draw one tarot card and sit with that. And the question that I might ask is, what do I need to know? Or where am I? Because I'm someone that likes to orient myself around this idea of an inner temple and also the wheel of the year or the medicine wheel. And so knowing where I am gives me some insight into where I'm at. And then understanding where I'm at allows me to offer myself compassion. And sometimes just knowing is a huge part of the process for me. Sometimes knowing allows me to explore taking a personal thought pattern and flipping it on its head if I feel ready to. But if I'm not ready to do that, just knowing where I am is something that I personally find comforting. So I would say have a tarot deck and one spiritual tool, one item that really brings you a sense of comfort and compassion and love from your spiritual practice. From there, I'm someone who likes to work with the element of fire. And so I would say a candle on your altar that you could light when you feel ready to, and meditate with that candlelight can help bring you back to a sense of being centered and grounded. But don't rush yourself through that process. So we have this kind of idea, I think, in the New Age spiritual community that we're all trying to ascend to a place where we never feel bad, where we never feel anything that's negative, right? And so all of our efforts are like put into making ourselves feel better all the time. And we really kind of tend to have a push of no negativity, don't focus on negative, only stay in the positive, right? Or that our shadow work should be moving us to a space where we never feel anything bad. The human experience is in the realm of contrast. So no matter how much we ascend or how enlightened we get on our path, we're going to have dark times. We're going to feel depression, anxiety, pain, grief, and mourning. For myself, that knowledge is very comforting because it means I don't have I'm not doing something wrong that I need to fix about myself to get to a better place so I never get hurt again. And when we strip our practice back to bare minimum through these times of pain, of unsurety, of fear, of loss, we really allow for ourselves to experience a sense of comfort in acknowledging our truth. And there's something about a lit candle, and just meditating with the light of a lit candle for me, that flame, that really lets me get in touch with that truth, that I haven't done anything wrong, or there's nothing I should be doing differently or better in order to feel better at this moment. And that's when you can really connect with the dark face of goddesses, of various goddesses or gods in your spiritual practice, that really allow you to honor the stage that you're in your experience as you right now. And in that honoring, you start to be able to find the light within yourself that gives you clarity to move forward. But don't rush yourself. So strip your practice back to the basics. Don't compete with other people for, I don't know, the most maximalist altar. It's like, bring it back to what gives you a sense of support and love on your journey. Honor that. Just sit with that. Don't try to force, major card journaling at this point in time, or big card spreads, or, really large guided meditations, or like work hard or do better kind of energy. Don't force that for yourself. Instead, let yourself be supported by the dark phase of the moon, by the energy of the death card in tarot, by the Morrigan, by Hecate, by Kali, by these darker goddesses, or Hades if you want to work with sacred masculine energy, that can really support where you're at and give you honesty about where you're at. So the spiritual practice should be supporting you. And that is the most important piece of advice I would give you here. Let the spiritual practice support you in these times of need. The Oracle deck, Into the Deep Woods, the new Lucy Cavendish Oracle deck for times of solitude. That is a beautiful Oracle deck to work with if you're currently experiencing this energy on your personal path. It's very compassionate, it's very loving, it's very gentle, but it's also honest about where you're at. So now that we've talked about experiencing compassion and allowing yourself to be where you're at, the last part of the question was, how can I get back on track? So there's always that sweet point that comes with this between like when it's time to start engaging in active practice again and when you might be stalling, because, sometimes being stuck can get comfortable, right? Like we can get comfortable with that. So I would say when it comes to then rebuilding to get back on track, once I'm out of that dark or heavy space and I can feel it starting to shift. And as I said, the way that I get it to shift for myself is by really just being honest with myself about where I'm at and letting myself be there and talking to my gods and emoting with my gods, okay? So then when I'm ready to get back on track, I will take that one stone, one tarot deck, one candle. You may use an oracle deck instead of a tarot deck, as I just mentioned. I'll start to add to, so I might add another deck and another stone. I might add a specific crystal, right? And then I'll go back to journaling. So for me, journaling always helps me like stay dedicated, stay loyal to a daily practice. And that is something that I will go right back into in order to help me get back on track with, serious daily draws and doing real card spreads and doing research with occult symbolism and, making notes and keeping track of all those things. So I would say start with those baby steps that get you back into practice. So for me, that would be adding a few more things into my altar, deciding, now remember, I've checked in about like, where am I at? Was my daily draw in the darkness, right? So then I would check in again, where am I? But what I would ask is, what element am I connecting with? Or what goddess am I connecting with? And then I might bring something into the altar along those lines that helps to inspire me and helps align me with that fresh energy. And from there, it's like climbing those steps out of the darkness, right? there'll be more that comes to you, and you can bring more into the altar work, more into sacred practice. So these are my thoughts on these times of heaviness, times of darkness, and altar work, sacred space, and spiritual practice during those time periods. I hope that to the viewer who asked this question, you found this video helpful. And if you are watching this just because, I hope you found it helpful as well. Feel free to share any questions or viewer requests for me in this series in the comment section down below. As always, guys, I am sending you so much love and many blessings, and I will see you in the next video.